Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day today. My name is Daphne Wallace, and I wanted to thank everybody that's been following my journey and supporting me the past few years. It's been really awesome to have the encouragement and motivation, and I couldn't have done it without you. Couldn't have even grown like I have, couldn't have found my way like I did if it hadn't been for the positivity. So, also for people who don't know me and who are just now hearing my voice, I am a drug recovery advocate, a mental health advocate, and an advocate for those people whose lives have been impacted by trauma. And the reason is because I struggled with all these things, and I have schizophrenia, I am in recovery, and I have definitely been through trauma. So I want to talk about for a second the fact that I also am a host and a radio program director for Resilient Radio Podcast. And before I had became this, I had this role, I actually had to go through a process of sharing my story so I could become stronger in doing that. And I'm still growing in that. So on our platform, what we do is we use our platform for people to share their stories of recovery their stories of resilience, and there's things that happen, by them doing that. There's things that happen when someone shares their story of recovery. Okay, so the first thing that happens is when you first share your story, you get practice. And like anything else in life that we want to get good at, if you want to get good and better at sharing your message more clearly, then it's going to take practice. So you get that by sharing your story every time you do it. All right, number two, by sharing your story, you also gain direction. And by getting that, it happens because generally we share our story, then we want to listen over ourselves. Then we want to see how we presented ourselves. We want to know how good we did at sharing our message. So when we look over our story, sometimes the message that we initially had could change in the middle of that story sharing, the storytelling time, that time. And sometimes we realize that the message or the topic of our story, that part of our story we wanted to elaborate on, it ends up being not elaborated on like we had planned, but something else ends up coming more louder, so we actually get to look over and see where we are in life now, and then we get to think about what direction we want to go next when we share our story, because we're growing and healing as this process is happening. So number one, you get practice. Number two, you get direction. Number three, by sharing your story, you give people out there listening who is in poverty, who may not have resources, who may be still struggling in addiction or mental health issues, even in the trauma, and they don't have hope. You actually give them hope because they hear your story and they hear, hey, this is another person that's struggling too, and they sound like they're able to talk about it, and that gives people hope. Number four, by people getting hope from you sharing your story, in turn, in addition to that, they actually have something that forms in them, and it's courage. They start getting courage to be able to reach out more for help, to seek out help, and to be able to share their story as well. So they start getting hungry for change. The first beginning part of their transformation could come from hearing your story. Number five, you actually share your recovery method, what worked for you. It may not work for the person hearing it, but it may. And people in poverty, we know, lack resources. Sometimes they lack treatment options, sometimes they lack insurance and things that keep them from finding their recovery and their path to freedom. So you also, by sharing your recovery method, you provide options for these people, and they hear different ways of people recovering that could potentially be a way out for them. And if it's not a particular way out, by what they hear from your story, then hopefully by hearing more stories, then they can actually see that they actually can pursue finding their own way. So number one, you get practice. Number two, you get direction. Number three, you give people hope. Number four, by giving people hope, they gain courage, so it helps them share their story. And number five, you provide options and resources for people to find their path to freedom. And so what happens when they find their path to freedom is they need to have practice to share their story. So it's a cycle. So if you would like to share your recovery story with us, you can email clientservices@tntalk.org. That's clientservices@tenntalk.org. You can also message me on Messenger, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or you can email me at dwallace@tntalk.org. This D Wallace, WALLIS, at TENN Talk, TALK.org. You can email me if you have any questions. if you want to sponsor some shows or sponsor our project and want to make a monthly pledge, if you're an organization, for example, and you have your recovery method, your program that is working for people, and you have success stories, and you become a monthly pledging partner and sponsor, then you get, not only will we be advertising for your program that's working for people in your community, we also get to we'll be able to share your success stories on our platform, and we could do that continually, you know. And if you're a person, a individual that wants to sponsor or donate, any money we have that we get goes for advertising, so we can get these stories out there where it's needed the most. And number two, the goal for me is to eventually be able to purchase filming equipment so that I can actually travel and do interviews with people in person. So that's kind of the goal there. And so any money we have will be going toward the radio program to be able to get these stories forever, if it's possible, to continue sharing these stories to give people hope. So that's all I wanted to say today, is the importance of sharing your story. It helped me heal to share my story. It helped me grow, and it still helps me grow. And it helps you overcome some of the trauma you might have been through. And this world needs brave people who are willing to share their stories of resilience. So y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.